And next item of business is the Decennial Committee meeting, which is our meeting within a meeting. So I would like to call to order the meeting of the Decennial Committee of the Cunningham Township Board, which is to be held tonight, Monday, March 25th, 2024. And will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Wu, Mr. Evans.
Here.
Ms. Hersey, Ms. Colasetti.
Here.
Ms. Bishop, Ms. Wilkin.
Here.
Mr. Quisenberry.
Here.
Mayor Marlin.
Here.
Supervisor Chenoweth.
Present.
Assessor Owana. Michelle Jett. Carol Elliott.
Okay, we'll move on to public input. If anyone wishes to address the Decennial Committee of the Cunningham Township Board, please come to the microphone. Okay, we'll move on to presentation of findings.
Okay, there we go. Greetings. I want to introduce Ethan Garcia, who has been our intern for 2 semesters at Cunningham Township. He's a graduate student in the Department of Urban and Regional Planning who will be graduating here in a hot minute, I think in about a month and a half. We're really grateful for his time and service in supporting a comprehensive report on Champaign County Townships as part of the Decennial Committee. So I'm going to pass it to him. We might bounce a little bit back and forth, and then we're happy to take any questions that you have.
Yes, so to reiterate, my name's Ethan. Thank you for having me, and we're really excited to be here. Thank you. Just for the public's sake, a bit of the background of this project. Public Acts 102-10-88 is what created the Decennial Committee, which seeks to study local efficiencies and report recommendations to our county board. And through that, Danielle, my sort of purpose for being hiring is she was really interested in investing into encouraging the promotion of township resources, specifically the township outside of our own Cunningham, because there's a lot of money and a lot of resources that are kind of hard to find and aren't being utilized. So the main goals of our project was to survey all the Champaign County Township, specifically the Champaign scope only, publish information in one or more ways, both physical and online, compare the data and identify trends, and make recommendations to mostly encourage collaboration and just a promotion of resources, because we know it is hard to sometimes handle some of these services, and we want to be able to pass our own knowledge because we believe we've been successful in housing a lot of people in need, and we think a lot of other townships and a lot of the public would benefit from these type of resources.
Yeah, and I just want to add, as from Cunningham Township's perspective, we field calls every single week from folks who live outside of township, our township, and we also get applications regularly from people who live outside of our township, and we have found it very challenging to be able to route people because there's so little information that's publicly available, including through the clerk's office where the information is supposed to live, simply because the information is not sent to the clerk's office or it's not updated. So in some ways, this is our opportunity as Cunningham Township, which is the largest provider in terms of dollars in the county, to kind of play a leadership role in helping coordinate or put all of the information around about all of the townships in one place for the public and for all of the townships to benefit from as well, so that the referral process is easier.
Just a quick rundown of our process. This committee was committed in June of 2023, and this project was approved here at this committee in November. And I right away went to trying to find my own way of finding how to contact all these townships, because even with me dedicating hours of work to trying to contact townships, it was very difficult. And so I can imagine from a citizen perspective, if you need these resources desperately, especially because they are emergency scenarios, it was very difficult to do that. Besides contradictory information online as well. So I try to compile that information within about a 3-week period. And I had to email a couple of people, whichever context I could find, whether it was a supervisor, a clerk, or the highway commissioner, to try to confirm an address or confirm email, because I want to make sure I was actually talking to someone and not talking to a ghost, which actually happened. And there was one supervisor emailed who was no longer alive, because that is the information that was online. And after that, I try to get some confirmed emails, and I try to send an online version of my survey, which was not required in any sense, but I just felt it was an easier means to get the information that we needed, mostly concerning what type of program people had, what was their budget for said program, how many clients are there per year, and just who we should contact, even as a township, if we ever needed to contact them, which we only got one reply to that online survey. And so from there, I try to follow up with more emails and try to email other people, and then I try to call for whichever number that I can find, which most of them didn't even allow me to leave a voicemail. And for some that did, I only got one call back, I believe. And then some of them, I did get a couple emails back to confirm addresses, but I just had to go with what I had. I did have a sort of address, a physical address for everyone. And so then we sent Freedom of Information Act, or FOIA letters, which are mandated to reply to. And then we ended up getting 16 replies by late January. And throughout the rest of the month, we ended up getting it to the point where we have all but 3 responses. So we have most of the information now, and we're going to present our update now and present a final one on the 8th of April.
Yeah, so today is to give some input. The purpose of today is we'll show the consequences of the research, and then if there's anything that you would like to add, we have 2 more weeks basically before our next meeting. So think about what questions you have throughout the presentation, and you can either email me or tell us now.
Yeah. And so
We have a number of slides. I think we have a number of slides, so we should probably just move through them a little bit quicker.
So moving on to just the general purpose of general assistance, which is one of the main programs and purposes that is mandated by Illinois law for townships to provide. It's one of their main priorities that townships are supposed to provide general assistance, which serves as mostly housing relief and housing rental emergency relief. And this specifically benefits people in poverty or people with disabilities or in some sort of rent burden, especially crises, examples like the pandemic, which recently happened, which our own township received a spike in people in need. So we could assume that that was universal across the township. And these are just some quick stats from the 2021 Community Needs Assessment Report, which greater emphasize the disability and poverty need in Champaign County. I'm not going to go through each one for the safety of time. And this is just to show the general trends in poverty, and there has been a rise in it throughout the county. Do you want to add something?
Oh, just the poverty rate in the county is higher than the state and national. You will see that it's trending downwards most recently, but.
Yep. And this is just to emphasize that the poverty exists greater beyond our own Cunningham Township scope, so it's not us presenting our own information. And this is to demonstrate the disability needs within Champaign, Urbana, and the greater county, which you could see that a lot of the red zones even exist outside our own township, so we don't have an effect to directly help those communities. And there are about, I think, 3,000 on average people who receive Social Security insurance payments due to disability needs.
Yeah, it's 3,200 recently, and it's been rising. One of the things that is important to understand is that townships, the one population that a township must serve, period, is people with disabilities who don't receive SSI. So when we see the trends in disability, that's a really important piece. And if they're not getting access to township resources, then they are left out in the cold. And it's quite interesting to look at the census map to see that it's actually, especially when it comes to disability, more common in the rural areas, even though general assistance is less accessible there in many places.
All right, this is just to show that there has been a 21% increase in county residents receiving SSI in the last 10 years. And again, there was a spike of unemployment due to the pandemic in 2020, and it steadily declined, but it seems it might be on the rise again. So that is good to note when discussing the need for general assistance. And again, this is more of like a textbook essay type answer to why general assistance is important. And one of the main reasons is that it is just one of the only support systems for this type of need, especially on the local level, which for our own process, we require people to go and try to get federal aid first before they come to us. We're typically are only a last resort, which for a lot of people, we become their lifeline when they are in need of quick housing relief, because we even have our own housing program where we actually help people find new housing if that is an issue. And again, as Danielle says, each township does collect tax funds that are supposed to be directly used for general assistance. And as we will later discuss, that other townships have been telling me themselves that they don't use that money. So we don't know what the purpose of that money is, if it's just sitting in bank accounts and it's for general assistance. This is just some quick facts. I'm going to summarize it quickly, but for the townships that you'll see in red, they do not have any sort of GA a program. According to them, this is from their word of mouth. This is not me hearsay. This is their contact told me they do not have it when they're mandated to have one. Crittenden is all yellow because they told me they have a program, but they didn't specify which one. But they do have one. So the ones that do not are Condit, Hensley, and Newcomb. And the ones in gray did not reply: Hardward, Ogden, and Philo, and Danton. This is just some of the qualities of townships that we want to help publicize, such as which townships have a website, what the website is, and what their office hours are like, so that it will be easy for clients to contact, and when they know when to contact, we go for ourselves too. It really helps to have our website with a set office hours, which many of the townships don't have. And so I'll quickly run through them, but will be elaborated on in our final report. And then there's just a quick rundown of some of the other services, because we understand that some of the other townships do services that our own township doesn't do, like roadside assistance and recovery and maintenance, as well as cemetery management, food bank, clothing donation, recycling programs, and social and recreation programs. And some townships have many other organizations to collaborate with, like we collaborate with 29, and some of the other townships collaborate with each other, and then also with other organizations, and some of which to handle their general assistance.
Yeah, and we'll probably add a slide to get into the collaboration piece. There's a couple of pieces of information we're still gathering, but to show models of collaboration between townships. So, for example, City of Champaign Township does run general assistance for several townships, and it's also the case that Cunningham Township convenes a rental assistance partners group with the RPC and the City of Champaign Township. So we want to highlight effective models of collaboration in the final report.
Yeah. And again, a quick summary of all those tables you just saw is that all but Hardwood, Philo, and Ogden replied to our FOIA request and or online survey. 5 total townships have websites. 8 have consistent set office hours. The rest are by appointment or just don't exist. They just claim to not have office hours. And 4 townships claim to not have one. And those 4 townships happen to be in what they call a multi-township, and they meet all together when they have their meetings. There's a 5th member, but the 5th member did say they have programs, so I'm not sure why the other 4 say they don't. And then this is just in descending order, the budget that, according to the clerk website, or the county clerk website, the fiscal year 2023, what is financially allocated for general assistance. So even though all the towns were saying they don't have, the 4 are saying they don't have programs that's in their budget, And I'll again quickly run through it for the safety of time.
I do just want to point out that there are some townships that really need a little bit of additional attention, like Mohammed collects over $250,000, but has no GA clients last year, so that is confusing to me. Sydney, Sedoris, Somer, all collect over $100,000 in general assistance, but don't have any clients listed in the last year. And then basically Colfax, Compromise, Ogden, and all collect over $50,000 and have no general assistance clients. Interestingly, Scott, and I'd like to talk with them, brings in about $81,000 and has 10 clients. Ludlow has 12, Tolono has 77. So I think it's interesting to look at. It doesn't seem to be related to the size of the general assistance budget, how many clients are supported. I will say Cunningham Township's number is there may be an error in this number. I don't think that 221 is accurate, but we're still digging into that number, so it's a draft right now.
Yeah. And again, for all the other numbers, this is the exact numbers they told me, so I'm not trying to commit hearsay here. This is literally the numbers they told me, so I'm just going off that because this information is not public. You cannot look up how many clients a township has. And then so altogether, the financial potential of GA budgets amount to about almost $6.8 million. And again, for most townships to have 0 clients, it's a little disheartening to see all that money kind of just sit in banks and not be done anything with. And that sort of concludes like our overall findings, and we just want to open the floor to you guys and we want to leave you with these type of questions of, assuming you didn't live in Cunningham Township, or if you don't, how would you reach out to your township? How do you think your township is equipped for a crisis? How does your township ensure people with disabilities have their needs met? How does your township ensure people living in poverty have their needs met? And what are services and resources that you would want if you were ever in a rental or housing emergency or any sort of rent burden? So that's honestly, we're just fighting for more accessibility of resources, whether or not people need them or not. They need to be accessible, and the budget is there for them, so we want that budget to be put to use.
Yeah, so this is the moment where we open it up to see if there are specific questions you have about the research and also things that you would like to see highlighted in the last 2 weeks of this work. We do have about 20 hours left of the intern time before bringing it back to you, so feel free to use that time.
Darcy?
Did you compile any sort of data on population at the township level? Because I know some of those townships are rural, and I thought you said something about a couple of them actually are already collaborative together, and I was just curious to see per budget and like assistance load what the population is at the township level, but I don't know how easy that would be to gather. Yeah,
I have tried to look at ACS data. I don't have a concise answer for you that of like population by population, but just from what me and Danielle know of the township, like she said, there isn't really a correlation so far between population and clients and whether there's a use of their budget, which is the big example being Mohammed, how they are a city or a bigger city and they have 0 clients and one of the biggest budgets.
Grace?
Quick one, if we could have the slides, if we don't already. Oh, we have them. Awesome. And then I was wondering if in your research so far you had any idea if they mentioned what other townships are doing for this decennial committee? Because they're all required to, right? I was wondering if I know it wasn't part of it, but just if someone mentioned that what they were doing for their
no, none of them have mentioned that, and it is in the intro to the FOIA and the intro for the online survey. If they did that route, that this was a part of the Decennial committee, and Danielle herself wrote the intro, so it's a bit more formal, and there's no mention of that. The biggest retort we got about it was more so that townships felt like they don't need it. Like, a lot of the townships, even though they did answer my question, which programs they do provide, a lot of them just said, well, we don't need it. And so just that alone, it just seemed like there's a general disinterest in it. And we want to just ensure that it's a disinterest because there is actually a disinterest. If this should be easily found online or in some sort of office or phone number for each township. It should not take hours of of someone's life to find this type of information.
Thank you.
Mary Alice.
So would you mind going back to the number of clients and the amount, specifically, and just because we know a bit more about our neighbor, Champaign?
Okay.
They have a
Yeah.
significantly less budget than us and way more clients than us. So I'm wondering if you could speak to, I understand you're digging into the number of clients that Cunningham has, but do you know what the program is that Champaign has, that they're allowed to serve so many clients at that amount?
So they have general assistance, rental assistance, and they operate strides. I think, and I flagged this right before, but we haven't had a chance. My data analyst is out on medical leave, so we will have to wait until they come back to get the information. But basically, if we add our homeless, I mean, you can see it in the supervisor's memo. If you add rental assistance, general assistance, and homeless assistance, we're in the thousands. So I just have to update that number. But City of Champaign and Cunningham Township, I mean, both of us have leveled up in the last 7 years from, very small. I think they were at 26 general assistance clients and no rental assistance. We were at 25 and no rental assistance. That's where we started 7 years ago. So this is a big growth area. And then obviously with City of Champaign, I think that number is, obviously this is fiscal year 23, so there's COVID dollars. So I think there's Urbana ARPA dollars that are included in that. I do not think that they're, we'd have to look at their tax levy. But there's some additional grant dollars in both of those pools that we have to look at.
Thank you.
James.
Thank you. If I could unpack a couple of numbers here. I think we have 30 townships in Champaign County, right? That's the number. 28 townships have highway commissioners. That's because City of Champaign and Cunningham Township have cities to manage their roads, right? Those are the two that are missing from that 28. All the rural ones have highway. It says here that some townships have formal collaborations, and Cunningham has 29 written relationships. Do any of the county townships outside of Cunningham and City of Champaign, I think you mentioned City of Champaign does some work for some of those townships. Does Cunningham Township do work for any of the rural townships?
No one has approached us to ask
None of our
us.
29 relationships are with one of the rural townships
Not
to
at
help
this
them do
point.
their
I've
work.
spent most of my time trying to cultivate a relationship with Rantoul because I think we get a lot of rental assistance requests from Rantoul. So we're working on that piece. But yeah, we don't operate general assistance for any of the rural townships. I think City of Champaign Township operates it for 2.
And then I guess my last question is, do you have knowledge of any circumstances where a township in the state of Illinois is not providing the services that they're mandated by law, that an action has been taken against those townships?
Yeah, the only reason that City of Champaign Township is functional is because Land of Lincoln sued them, along with many other townships in the area. Actually, Cunningham Township was one of the only not sued. I believe this was early 80s, and Land of Lincoln brought forward a class action lawsuit against the townships. I believe the City of Champaign Township, the town board had voted to basically eliminate the budget. And the judge found that eliminating the budget did not satisfy their state requirements of providing general assistance. Unfortunately, when Champaign came back, and I wish Carol Elliott was here because she knows this history better than I do. She's the former supervisor in Cunningham Township, but when Champaign came back, they were stuck under tax caps. So one of the challenges that they faced, they actually have one of the lowest City of Champaign Township has one of the lowest tax levy rates of any township that is comparable, and certainly any university town. Very, very low tax rate in that township, much lower than what is needed to actually provide the services. So they're
Which
going to
may
have to.
speak to the
I certainly
disparity
have.
that Mary Alice brought up, right?
Oh,
With
yes,
lots,
exactly.
Lots of people coming for services, but not a lot of budget.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Yep. Yeah, so there can be action taken, and especially I would say there's a group of townships called metro townships. They're the metro townships around Chicago. We've requested that we join them, even though we are not officially. I mean, some people think of us as a suburb of Chicago. We're not actually officially a suburb, but and so by joining metro townships, those townships have seen quite a bit of activity around this issue. Where townships that are not providing services, people in their communities have gone after those townships and have made sure that they provide those services, whether that's through a partnership with another township or it's independently. So there's been quite a bit of reform in those collar townships.
Yep. And there is a more recent one, I think that happened in 2020. I'm not going to name drop it, but there is a township that was recently sued, that countersued because they're suing people for FOIA-ing them, which people have a legal right to FOIA you. So look, I was a little scared when I sent mine to them because I didn't know how they were going to apply, but they replied, so we're okay.
Any other questions? Grace?
Thanks. Just had another, hopefully quick one. If you could explain the differences with Cunningham, and I also see Urbana and the city of Champaign and Champaign.
Yeah, it's an interesting remnant, but basically we are Cunningham Township. Do you want to go to the slide with the maps? I think this might be helpful. Yeah, there it is. So basically you can see that the townships are kind of squares, like so much of the cornfields that we live in. But you'll see Champaign and Urbana are carved out as contiguous townships with the cities. So is Rantoul. Looks like there might be a Rantoul Township as well. So Urbana Township is actually the outlying area outside of the city of Urbana, and Champaign Township is the outlying area outside of the city of Champaign. And then they are the city of Champaign Township, and we are Cunningham Township, which is a confusion that we deal with on a daily basis.
Yeah, thank you. So at Cunningham Township, do you also serve Urbana Township, or that's its own separate township?
So it
entity,
depends on
right?
the source of income. So our levy only serves people within Cunningham Township. We have several programs. We have state-funded programs, and we fund the county as a whole. That tends to be around emergency housing and street outreach. And we are providing through our Angel Donor Fund, we bring in about $60,000 a year in private donations, so that's discretionary. And we get donations from out of the state. We get donations from Champaign, Mahomet, Rantoul, a lot of different places. And so we have broadened our some of our work to include everyone with a child in Urbana schools, and that does include the outlining areas. When we do have the funds, we've also supported utility assistance throughout the county. We've gotten quite a few requests from Rantoul in that regard. So, so it depends on the funder, but we're very strict that levy money goes specifically to Cunningham Township residents or children in Cunningham Township.
Yeah, we don't want it to be a discrepancy that our higher budget is just that we somehow have more money. Our team, specifically Decennial, become supervisors, actively work to get more money, which technically all the other townships have potential to do. And in my initial online survey, that was a part of the final questions was more so, do you want help in how to get more, do you want more information about homeless services? Do you want more information about general citizen services at the state and federal level? And even then, most of them said no, that they didn't need any help.
James?
One last question, since this is a once in a 10-year conversation, and I'm not suggesting we do this, but has anyone ever asked the question of why we don't rename Cunningham Township to City of Urbana Township? I mean, it's a mess to do that. The county clerk would hate me for suggesting that, because all the precincts
If
are
the
named after
Decennial
that.
Committee so wishes to consider recommendations, I think a really good time to make the recommendations is at our next meeting. So
Okay.
I would say chew on it. I'm also doing
I'm
the
just
same.
curious if anybody's ever asked the question before,
I can
to
ask
avoid
Carol
the
when we,
confusion.
when we make contact. I don't know if the family of Cunningham would have concerns about that, but I do think we should look at branding, even if we don't, you can do doing business as. So, I mean, it's possible that we can have a legal name and then we have a doing business as and consider, how we might want to brand what we're doing. I know Courage Connection went through, obviously they're not a government entity, but they did go through a process of rebranding that I think, helped them. So did Greater Community AIDS Project. So they've been, different groups as they have changed their missions have looked at how they brand. So I'm open to those recommendations if you have bright ideas. James, I look forward to
All right.
talking to you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. And you'll be sending this to council members?
Yeah, so
Okay.
it was sent to the whole Decennial committee
Great.
this afternoon. I mean, once I finally got internet, I3 has been down, but you should have gotten that in your inbox. And feel free if you can send me, look it over and send an email. And then there's a couple of questions you all have raised, so we'll consider that in the next iteration that we bring back to you in April.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you, Ethan.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much to Ian. He's put a lot of work into this process. So.
With that, the Decennial Committee meeting is adjourned, and then we will move on to adjournment of the Cunningham Town Board. This will be followed immediately by the City Council meeting.